a professional and you just need that downtime. So that's where we have these wellness sessions. So where we tackle different topics and also invite different experts in the field. So in tonight's session, we'll be exploring a topic that I believe resonates with many of us, which is overcoming exam failure and addressing the imposter syndrome. So I believe that these challenges like exam failure, maybe feeling like you don't belong or self-doubt can be deeply personal and sometimes they can be difficult to navigate. But through this session and also just through our support here at Endunamo, we want to reassure you that you are not alone and they don't define your worth or your future. So you can always start again and you can always give something a second chance. So in today's session, I am honored to be joined by Ntabiseng Mabuya, CASA. So she's one of our guest partners here at the Wellness Hub. So Ntabi will be just sharing insights and practical strategies that can help us to move through these experiences. So we want to make sure that when we move from these challenges that we have experienced, we move on with resilience and a renewed confidence. So in tonight's session, I encourage you to fully engage. So please be present, reflect, take notes, ask questions, and most of all, just give yourself that permission to be open to the conversation because things like like exam failure, maybe doubting yourself, they are also not easy conversations, even just with ourselves. So just be open, ask questions, and also engage, like just engage through the chat, and like that. So before we start, maybe just to set some rules, just to ensure that this platform is safe and respectful. So maybe let's just ensure that while we engage with one another, please keep yourself muted unless, of course, you are invited to speak. So please feel free to use the chat to ask questions or share reflections as we go. And if you would like to speak, please raise your hand and Intabi will acknowledge you and give you an opportunity to speak. And also, most importantly, like I'm saying, this is a wellness space, so it's a judgment-free zone. So we are here to support each other, learn from one another. So let's remember to be kind, respectful, and open. So with that, I'll just hand over to Ntavi. Ntavi, you can take the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Zalia, can you please confirm if you can see me and my camera's on and you can hear me?
Yes, I can see you and you are audible.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to engage with you all in the session. And like Zalia mentioned, it's a very, very critical topic that we're going to discuss today because I feel like all of us have experienced this on our academic journey, be it undergrad, be it CTA, IATC, and even now APC. And I think one thing that you need to know is that this session is about being open minded. And you need to make sure that you're going to be willing to accept certain things and also change certain things. I think that's very important. So, without wasting any time, I'm just going to share my screen. Zalia, please just confirm once you can see my screen.
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay, so today's topic is about emotional wellness. Most importantly, overcoming failure and just, being able to push yourself back from that down. I'm so sorry. I realized I was muted now. But I was saying that I'm going to start the session off by just explaining my journey. Because, yes, I'm a chartered accountant by profession. However, it was a journey to get there. And one of the things that I encountered was failure, right? I was on another board course and we had 3 assessments. Assessment 1 did not go well. I got a not competent. So in the ratings, it's either you're not competent, you're limited competent, borderline, or you are competent. So not competent meaning that you are in like the danger zone. And for assessment 1, I was not competent. For assessment 2, I was limited competent, right? And then the qualifying assessment, I was borderline competent. And I felt so discouraged because in the group that I was in, I was one of the few people that failed, right? There was like a large number of us, and maybe two or three of us failed. And now it was discouraging because I didn't know, what I did wrong. And I didn't even know that it was even possible to even pass after that. So I had to go and write the supplementary assessment, and eventually I passed supplementary assessment and then wrote the PSYCHA 2023 exam, and I eventually passed it and got the SMS, right? And I'm just going to take you through a journey of what helped me get over, all the emotions I was feeling after receiving my results and all of that. So after receiving the September assessment, I felt a lot of things. And one of the things is my mind was racing. I was asking myself, is it too late? Am I ever going to make it? And I felt like I'm not good enough because I started to ask myself, why me? Everybody else was passing around me and everybody else was basically getting it. And after three assessments, I'm just like, I'm supposed to get it by now. I'm supposed to get it. But every effort that I put in, nothing seemed to be working. And even if I was putting in the hours after work, I was working on weekends, I was making sure that, I'm putting the work in and investing in my academics, nothing seemed to be changing, nothing seemed to be working. And I started developing imposter syndrome because now it was as if like I was emotionally like not gifted. And I knew that was not the case, but it felt like that because like I said, everybody else passed in my group. Like we all got the same pre-release. We all had the same IOD. We came in as a group and discussed pointers, triggers, things we identified, things we agree with, things we don't agree with. We had the same information. However, they passed and I failed. So I focused more on, how come they passed and then I failed, right? I started to lose confidence in myself. And it also affected me at work because now it's like, if I'm not competent in writing an exam, especially like in the board course, then does this mean I also don't know my audit work, right? It started affecting the way I see myself at work because now I'm not confident in every working paper I'm completing. I'm second guessing myself. I'm asking my peers to check my working paper before I submit it and sign it off and hand it over to the assistant manager. And it's a lot. I started asking a lot of questions because there was a bit of self-doubt there. And I was in a very dangerous place because everything I did, I doubted myself because even when I was reviewing my scripts, I looked at it and I'm just like, you know what? I feel like I should have gotten the mark because I knew this. But at the end of the day, I had to come to the realization that, there's certain things that I need to go back to. And I realized that in order to pass, I have to have turning points, right? And I had to change my mentality. And one of the things with failure, sometimes you can be stuck on the failure itself, whereas you're stuck on self-pity, you're stuck on self-doubt, you're stuck on the lack of confidence. Meanwhile, you can have a change in perspective and you can believe in yourself. One of the things that I struggled with was identity crisis. So I started to think that I am that failure. I started to think that, you know what, I am a failure myself. That is who I am. But one of the things that I had to learn is that failure is what I went through, but it's not my identity. There's a quote that says, never let your circumstances become your identity. And in that failure, I became consumed in that failure and thinking it's my identity. I could not separate myself from that failure. But in order to turn things around and move from a borderline competent to an actual competent by psycha, that's when I changed my perspective. And I also started to realize that failing is okay. And it doesn't mean that nothing is wrong with you. It does not mean that, you always be a failure in your life. No, it does not mean that. It is okay to fail. And you should never beat yourself up about it. But it's about what you do after the failure that matters. And I had to realize that obviously, if I was studying all the time and I was putting in the hours, I wasn't doing something right. Because if you're doing something repetitively and you're expecting a different outcome, that means, something is just missing in between. So I had to change the approach since the current one isn't working. So I had to ask myself, okay, what have I done thus far? And what has worked and what has not worked? Clearly, what I was doing was not working. So I had to break it down module by module. So in accounting, I looked at the responses I gave for accounting, and I looked, okay, what does the script review say, and what does the memo say, right? What did I write, and what is missing? That's when I started to have a list of things that I got right, things that I got wrong, and I started to have a set approach on how to answer an accounting question. And then taxation, I broke it down into the same way. I looked at taxation. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What was missing? And that's when I started to create templates. And in those templates, I started to structure it in a way that my brain understands. So one of the things that I learned about myself is that I cannot learn without seeing color. If it's black and white, I cannot consume that knowledge. So I worked with color. That's when I started to style my way of studying according to my needs and the way the information will get in. And that's when I started having templates. That's when I started, creating a study approach that worked based on my needs. And obviously, my study approach will look different to yours, right? It will not be the same because APC is not a size one fit all type of journey. And the next thing that I suffered with is, comparing myself to my peers. Remember, I said when I failed, I was saying that my group members passed and I didn't pass. That means something's wrong with me. One of the things that you need to learn is you need to focus on your own journey, and you need to focus on yourself, because at the end of the day, as much as we are all writing the same paper, as much as we can be in the same group, you are the only person that's going to get into the exam and have to write something down. Your peers are not there. Nobody is there with you. You need to focus on your journey. And yes, you can write an assessment from now, May, until August. It's time to figure it out. It's time to know yourself. That's when you need to see what works for you and what doesn't. Because, like I said, what can work for you will not work for the next person. So focus on yourself, because the moment you compare yourself to other people, then that's when you're gonna have self-doubt. You're gonna look at yourself in like having a weakness, and you're gonna focus on the negative things about you and what you don't know instead of focusing on things you can change. So it's about changing the mindset. And another thing that you need to understand is failure always teaches you something. And even if it's not a big realization, but failure does teach you something because it births something in you. And one of the things that you need to learn is that when you're failing, right, that means you get a chance to do things all over again and do them right. You get a chance to learn yourself, because in life, you're going to fail. That is without a doubt, because successful people got to where they were because they failed and they got up. So you need to know and ask yourself, in this failure, what did it teach me? Right? When I was failing assessment one, what did I get wrong? And what has this taught me as a person? For me, failure has taught me resilience. And it was the fact that I failed. I'm grateful that I failed, because now it has taught me how to accept a negative thing in life. It has taught me how to bounce back. And it has taught me that, yes, I have overcome failure. It is possible, right? There's a rainbow after the storm. And some of us think that, failing is the end of the world, which is not, right? You are still here, and you are still going to make it. Your dream is delayed, but it's not denied. And the next thing is about being kind to yourself. Words are very powerful. There is life and death that lies in the power of the tongue. And that is a very strong statement, because the word you speak to yourself produce whatever you believe and whatever you set out and speak out. And if you tell yourself that I'm a failure, you will fail, unfortunately. If you tell yourself that, I'm a conqueror, you're gonna conquer. If you tell yourself that, yes, I acknowledge that I went through the failure, but I'm going to overcome, and I'm going to get that CASA designation, or I'm going to get that CA, be the first CA in my family, then you will achieve anything you aspire to dream, right? Anything that you're dreaming about. Because at the end of the day, what we don't realize is that the pressure usually does not come from our families. It usually does not come from our friends or our circle. It comes from within, because you are hard on yourself. You are expecting yourself to master something that is a process overnight, and you can't perform that miracle overnight. APC is a journey. So allow yourself to go through that journey. Allow yourself to learn yourself through that journey. Allow yourself to learn what you know and what you don't know, and work with your strengths and weaknesses. It's about learning that when you're looking at weaknesses, you're going to master them and fine tune them into strengths. So always be kind to yourself, because at the end of the day, if you are not kind to yourself, no one else can be kind to you, because you teach people how to treat you based on how you see yourself. So value yourself enough to pick yourself up, because at the end of the day, you are going to be your biggest cheerleader. No one will give you that motivation. You need to motivate yourself. So if you are not a person to be kind to yourself, then that is going to be a problem, because at the end of the day, you are the one that's going to look yourself in the mirror and either speak life to yourself, or you're going to speak negative energy, and you're going to blame everyone around you for you not actually succeeding. Meanwhile, you are the one that is spitting negative words to yourself. So always watch what you're saying. And every single time I look back at my journey, I always had to apologize, to be like, you know what, Ntabi saying, I'm sorry for not being kind to you. I'm sorry for, saying that you're a failure, saying that you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. Anytime I doubted you, I'm sorry, right? I had to apologize to myself, because I realized how hard I was on myself and I expected perfection. Meanwhile, I'm just a mere student, because as much as you're working and you're studying, you are still a student, and you don't have to be the master, right? It is okay to fail, and it's okay to be in that state of failure, but don't let it overcome your identity, right? And the last point, I love it, because when I fail, I make the failure count. And what I mean by that is that when you're failing, you need to make it count to a point where you do not go back to that failure, right? You're going to tell yourself, I failed, but I didn't fail for nothing. I'm failing, yes, but I'm learning from that failure. So go back to that paper, go back to that attempt that you had maybe in December, go back to any assessment you ever failed, and said, here is my failure. What am I going to do differently, and make it count? So that spirit of making the failure count, I had it in my September assessment when I failed. That's when I sat down with myself. I sat in isolation. I remember I took a weekend, 3 days. I was not on my phone. I told my family that, listen, I'm okay. I just need 3 days to myself, to be one with myself, and I need to do the work. In those 3 days, I sat with my scripts and I looked at every single detail, and I tried to see how to approach every module, how to answer every module, how to break everything down. And that's when APC started making sense. And that was the turning point for me to say, listen, I'm going to make this failure count. That's the attitude I walked into the October examination with. Because now it's like, I do not come this far just to fail again. There's a reason why I failed September. It's because I need to make October count. And it's because I need that knowledge to pass the psyche exam. Because I feel like if I did not fail September, I was not going to pass the psyche exam. I was going to get comfortable and think that, you know what, I actually got this APC thing, and I was going to be overly confident. So I needed that failure to ground me, to make me realize that there's certain things I need to fine tune and work on. So I didn't look at the failure as a negative thing. I looked at it as something that is going to count. I made sure that when I'm writing, I'm going to write the memo. I know I didn't write the memorandum, but yeah, that's the thing I always did to myself, right? Be it from matric, every single time I was writing, I was saying to my parents, bye, mama, I'm going to write the memo. Like, come hello, high water, I am passing. And that is the way that's the attitude that I had. Even in CTA, as tough as CTA was, I told myself, I'm going to make it count. I'm going to write the memo. As much as it's not possible, but you are setting a standard for yourself to be like, I did not fail for nothing. So have that attitude of, I'm not failing for nothing. And one of the things that I love is that failure teaches you a lot. There's a beauty in failure, and failure teaches you how to control what happens next, right? It's either you can sit down and feel sorry for yourself, be in self-pity, to be like, I'm never gonna get this, I'm never gonna, pass, this is like my fifth attempt, this is my sixth attempt. It doesn't matter what number attempt you are on this year, you are passing, right? Because now you have control over what happens next. You have seen what works and what doesn't. So roll with what works and then work on the things that are not working for you, right? How are you going to do that? You're going to consult. And one of the things that really helped me was when I was failing, I had to um, bring myself down to be like, you know what? I need to ask for help because I'm a person. If I'm struggling, I will not ask for help. I'm very shy, funny enough. And I didn't ask for help from the lecturers on the board course. I didn't ask for help from anyone. Like I was just stuck. But then I realized in order to have that turning point, I need to do something differently. And I was consulting with my peers. I wasn't even consulting with the lecturers because I went to my group members and I'm like, we wrote the same paper. We had the same group consultations. We identified the same triggers. We discussed the triggers. However, you passed, I failed. Teach me your ways, right? Show me what you did and let's compare notes. So I had a meeting with one of my group members and we went through the paper. I'm like, walk me through IOD. What was going on in your brain when you saw this? And I was taking notes to be like, okay, I didn't think about it this way. I didn't think about it this way. So the problem was we saw the same pre-release. However, IOD, it was one-on-one, right? There was no time to discuss IOD. So I'm like, okay, let's compare. Now I started to see, okay, I need to improve in a critical way like this, right? When they say critically evaluate, this is what I must consider because I didn't see it in this way. And the person who passed saw it in this way, that means their way is right, right? Because I mean, obviously, I didn't get it right. So I had to basically put myself in an uncomfortable situation to get that pass. And one of the things about failure is that it births your purpose. And one of the purposes that I have is helping people. So every single time I accomplish something, I help the next person, be it CTA, ISC, and APC, right? When I pass something, I go back to help the next person. So when I was writing APC, there was 5 people in my APC group, the final group that I had. And 2 people passed the 2023 board exam, right? And 3 of my group members failed. However, when I got the SMS, I was happy for a second because I got the congratulations. But at 6 o'clock, because we get the SMS at 4 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, my heart was heavy because now I found out that my group members had failed, right? So it didn't feel like a success. So I knew that I had to go back and help my team members because we are a team, right? We fail as a team and we pass as a team, right? So failure birthed my purpose to a point where I became an APC mentor because now remember I saw the light. Those 3 days that I went into isolation, they were real. And I saw the light to see that, you know what, these are the templates that I can come up with. This is the strategy that I can come up with APC. And with me using those templates and using the study approach that I had, it, you know, birthed the purpose of me being that APC mentor and being the APC YouTuber. Right. And I call myself an APC plug because I plug people into the loopholes and the things that are not really discussed in depth in any APC program. Because now on YouTube, more especially, everybody likes watching YouTube videos. So when I was doing APC, I would Google how to answer an ethics question in APC or this and that. And all the videos you would get is how to pass APC at first attempt, right? You know, how the paper was. It wasn't really like going deep into the crux of the matter. And that's when I saw the gap in the market that, listen, let me act as a big sister and, you know, fill the gaps. And that was my purpose. The failure that I had in September, it birthed the APC series by Tabi. And I feel like if I didn't have that failure, I wasn't going to, you know, be able to assist people in all countries and in most countries in Africa, you know, who are pursuing the CA journey. But one thing that I love about failure, it also ignites the fighting spirit in you, right? You're going to prove yourself wrong. And failure ignites this fire because now it's like, okay, you got it wrong, but you want to know how it is to get it right. And you're going to fine tune your approach. You're going to basically go back to the drawing board. You become a student again. You know, you get to learn yourself. And the one thing that is beautiful about failure is that it teaches you that you can overcome. And you think that failure will kill you, and it won't. Because at the end of the tunnel, you're going to look back and say, listen, I did that. I'm a CA now. And I didn't let this thing define me. I didn't let this thing get me down. And having that fighting spirit, like you're going to even surprise yourself when you're fighting, right? Take it as a marathon. marathons are very long, and we're going to have a marathon soon, right? I think it's 40 something kilometers, if I'm wrong, but you think it's impossible. And one of the things that is going to stop you from running that marathon is your mind. Whatever you tell your mind, then it's going to come to pass. If you tell your mind you can't run the marathon, already after 5 kilometers, you're going to give up because you've already told yourself that you can't run the marathon. However, if you are like, I'm going to run the marathon, come hell or high water, I am still going to run the marathon. Like, I'm going to be Usain Bolt. Like, I'm going to finish strong and I'm going to be number one in this marathon. You can accomplish it. You'll be surprised what your body can endure because of your mind. Everything starts in the mind. So you have to feed your mind with positive things, even if it means that every day you are giving yourself what do they like calling them? So like saying you are strong, you are beautiful, you are capable, you are competent. I like saying that I'm competent, I'm a CA, right? You affirmations, yes, words of affirmation. You are telling yourself these things because you're making yourself believe. Even if in the morning you have to plug them on your wall, say them every day. I had a mantra that I put on the wall, right? I am more than a conqueror. I am competent. I am capable. I am already a CA. And hearing that, hearing Tabi saying Mabuya CASA, Sana, it had a ring to it. Like, I already saw it. I already was hearing Mama Patricia say my name on stage and get my certificate. That is the vision that I had. And that's the vision that I wanted to pursue. And that's the vision I had going into the psych exam. And that's why I feel like, you know what, it was able to carry me through and be competent. And one of the things that you need to learn in the beauty of failure is that it reminds you of your why. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I studying? Why am I, going through this journey? After failing, why am I still studying? Like, why am I still pursuing this thing? Because it's been so many years, it's been so long. So you need to remind yourself the why. My why was the fact that I'm a Tutuga baby, right? And I knew that I had to change the circumstances at home. And I'm the first CA in my family. There's no other CA in all the generations of the Mabuya line. There's no CA. I'm the first CA in my family. And that was my why. That was the reason for me continuing, because I knew that I wanted to make my parents proud. I wanted to make myself proud. I wanted to be the first CA in the Mambuya line. And that is something that really motivated me, because at that time I didn't know that I'm going to be an APC mentor, right? It came with the failure and the process of it, right? So this was my why. And every single time I would do it for my family, and not only the family I was birthed in, the family that I'm still going to continue, to make, and the family that I'm going to start. I want my kids to, when I have kids, I want the kids that I'm going to have to actually look back and say, yo, my mom is a CA, because that designation does not come easily. And that is something that I want my kids to look back and say, yeah, mama, you did it. After everything you've been through, you still did it, right? So that was my why. And this is how failure has shaped my destiny. I did explain the YouTube channel, right? And this is the platform I use to assist many APC candidates. So what I usually speak about is ethics, how to actually answer strategic consideration question, because I didn't know that. One of the marks that I used to lose was ethics. One of the marks I used to lose was, yes, we'll get a capital budget question, but when it's time to explain, yeah, no, I couldn't explain it, right? So what I used to do is that I used to ask candidates what they struggle with, and they'll give me a list of the things they struggle with, and I'll make a video explaining everything. And in this channel, I was able to reach people who were in big four companies. As much as I work at AG, I assist people from big four companies, people from Zimbabwe and Namibia as well through the channel. And this is all because I failed that September assessment, right? So there is beauty in failure, but you need to make it count. That is the key. Make your failure count. So the question I will leave with you is, what are you doing with the failure that you have encountered? how are you going to receive the failure that you have encountered? What are you going to do about it, right? Because remember, failure is something you can control. And if you are letting the failure consume you and you're going to have a pity party, then you will stay there. And as much as, you can get academic support from Endonormal, you will not be able to get out of that pity party and get out of that lack of self-confidence if you yourself are not kind to yourself, if you yourself don't have a game plan. So you need to make sure that you have a plan after your failure so that you know how to actually get over everything and collect yourself to be that CA that you deserve. Because we do need more CAs in South Africa and in Zimbabwe and Namibia. So just make sure that you're making the CA count. And the journey count. And that's all from my side, Zelia. I'm going to hand over back to you.
Thank you so much, Ntavi. That was quite insightful. So maybe we can just maybe take a few questions if there are any questions from the audience. Okay, Ntavi, I see a question on the chat platform.
Okay. So the question is, how did you quickly get back up and hold your head high to take lessons from failures? It was very difficult because the time frame for the failure was short, right? Because remember, I was writing September and I failed and I had to quickly gather myself for October. That's why those 3 days of isolation was very important, because I knew time was not on my side. And I had this mentality that I have one chance to do APC and one chance only. I'm not gonna come back again next year to repeat it, because if I fail, I have to do a whole year again. And I don't have a whole year. So I told myself that, listen, in these 3 days, I need to sit down and actually be honest with myself about what I know and what I don't know. Because some of the things that we tend to take for granted is honesty and self-review. You need to actually sit down with your paper and see what you've got right and what you've got wrong. And don't blame the marker to be like, no, they could have given me this mark. No. I had to sit down and look, okay, they say I got it wrong, I got it wrong. How do I correct it? I was stubborn enough to say, listen, I need to go back to the drawing board. And I told myself that I do not have a choice but to make this work. And the 3 days of isolation was the turning point. And blocking the world outside of you and just focusing strictly on APC for 3 days, it will do wonders for you. And that's how I was able to just quickly gather myself. I hope I answered your question, Helen.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing a hand from Gomolemo. You can go for it.
Um, Evening, everyone. From my side, I don't have a question. I just have a comment on what Ntavi spoke about, and it relates to something I've recently discovered, and it's about knowing the why. Because I think for the longest time, I think even now, I'm still not sure why I want to be in this profession, except the fact that I started it, you know. But I've recently been discovering bit by bit um, why I do certain things on the daily. Um, just basically why my day goes the way it goes every day. And with that, it helps me to sort of like structure and, you know, build purpose on why I'm doing certain things. Like going to the gym. It helps me structure my workouts because I know why I'm doing the gym on the day. So yeah, I'm here to discover why I'm in this profession, why I want it so bad. But I've discovered that knowing the why is very important. It helps you structure your plan and make your goal and vision very clear and make it easy to work towards it. Thank you.
Thanks, Homo. And I think just remembering the why, and if when you remember it, maybe paste a little sticky note on your wall, or paste it on your laptop, or paste it even on your APC file. Because when you forget it in the exam, you get a reminder. And one of the videos I made was the importance of remembering the why, and the importance of just calming down on the day of the exam. And when I had a panic attack, I remember one of the things that I drew strength from was putting a scripture, Jeremiah 29, verse 11, in my file. And when I was discouraged, there was a question I did not know. I just said, you know what, I don't know this question. I looked at that scripture, and I looked at a message from my father, my late father, and I stuck it on the piece of paper. And it was a message of him saying good luck on WhatsApp, like a WhatsApp chat, saying good luck, you got this, and everything. And remembering that was the why. I needed to make him proud. I needed to make my mom proud. And seeing that, it gave me energy. I was tired that day. It's an 8-hour paper. But I grew strength because I remembered that there's someone that I need to make proud. And that can just really go a long way. So thank you, Homo, for that. Happiness, you can come through.
Hi, Tobisang, and hi, everyone. So I just want to confirm, I just joined late. I'm not sure if I'm in the right platform because I keep hearing you saying APC, and I'm writing AIC in June. So I just want to confirm if I'm in the right platform.
It is an APC platform. However, we are dealing with failure in any assessment. So you can still be on, because we are dealing with failure in terms of any assessment that you can write. I think because you're writing in June, this session can also still be beneficial for you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Helen, you can come through.
Yes, thank you, Ntari. I just want to find out, I think earlier on in your presentation, you have indicated that you start reflecting on the assessment which became a game changer for you. And you've mentioned something like you've actually designed a template. Do you mind like sharing that a bit? The template where like you did your reflection, what went wrong, what went right? Can you just share a bit about that?
Okay, so how the template would usually look like is that I'll have each module, and then I'll have a list of the questions in that exam paper. And in the exam paper, I'll state the topic that I got wrong, for example, revenue or leases or capital budgets. And then I'll have another section where I write in the specific question, what did I get wrong? For example, if maybe they say critically evaluate, what did I miss? And then that's when I'm able to see, okay, whenever they say critically evaluate, I never know where to start. So a critically evaluate question, I saw it for accounting, I saw it for finance, I saw it for strategy, I saw it for auditing. If maybe they gave us procedures and then they said that which procedures are missing, every single time they say critically evaluate, that's when I'll see, okay, I know my work, but I don't know what to write. So that broke it down. So when I went back to the exam itself, I saw the memo, and then I saw, okay, this is what they want. And then I realized that as a general blanket approach for anything, when they say critically evaluate, they want me to write what is correct, what is incorrect, and what is missing. And that's when I started to see, okay, this is what they want as a general approach. But then how to basically self-review is, like I mentioned, right, the topic, and then also write exactly what you got incorrectly, so that you can see whenever they say here is something critically evaluated, is that a problem? or if maybe they want me to do something from scratch, and am I able to do that? Am I able to remember? So yeah, I think I answered your question. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Helen.
Yes, you answered. So basically, you will allude your maybe where you went wrong by not really understanding what the question required from you.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And it'll
Okay.
also help to confirm, to reread the IOD again. So you'll read the IOD and then read what you wrote on the day, and then also read what the mock the script said, right? So that you can see on the IOD, what did you miss out on, right? Because there's certain things that you missed that were triggers that we're supposed to answer. And then when you read the IOD and then read what you wrote, you will be able to see your thought process on the day. So you will see what the issue is. Helen?
Yes. So, but you would have picked up like the triggers during the PRI period.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. No,
Hap-
thanks. Interesting.
no problem. Happiness, you can come through.
Sorry, if I'll be taking you back. So when you say you're doing proper reflection of what you did in your paper, can you please take me through that process? Because I normally do the question, and then I look at the solution to try and understand why did I get it wrong, like how to answer if a question comes in this way. So I'm not sure if I'm doing it correctly, or if you can take me through that process.
Okay. I think what I can do is share a document with Zelia on the way to do a self-review critically, because it will
Okay.
explain what to do in your individual capacity and also explain what to do as a group. Because one of the things that we fail to realize is that as much as it's an individual assessment, we started with a group discussion. So we need to also discuss as a group why we missed certain triggers, why we didn't discuss certain things that were identified that we missed. And I think that document basically breaks everything down. It will also give you the set questions that you can ask yourself. So I think I can share that document with Zelia, and then she will just distribute it to everyone in Normal. Is that fine? Happiness?
Okay, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Um, Zelia?
Okay, so I'm not sure if you've addressed this. So we had a question coming in on the chat. So it says, so how did you identify specific exam techniques that contributed to your failure? So no, and Tabi, did you get that?
Please just repeat it, Zelia.
Okay, so it says, how did you identify specific exam techniques that contributed to your failure? So basically, maybe how did you identify exam techniques, maybe that I think you were getting wrong, and I think I assume.
Okay, so I had to realize that the journey to APC starts from pre-release. So obviously, I can't master IOD and responding on the day if I do not know how to study it in the 5 days. So in accounting, for example, I'll just walk you through my approach for every module. So in accounting, I realized that the standard is structured in a simple way. It will give you the criteria of that standard. For example, in leases, you have the contract and it is for a period of time, and then there's going to be an underlying asset that is exchanged for at a certain amount, right? You need to have right to control the use of the asset. That is the criteria. And if that criteria is met, then we need to move into initial recognition, right? And then you recognize the right of use asset, the lease liability, that at initial recognition, and then after that, a subsequent measurement, right? So the structure is criteria, initial recognition and measurement, subsequent presentation and disclosure. So if the standard is structured in that way, that means I need to be able to answer it in that way. So if SAICA says that what is the accounting treatment for something, that is a structure I need to look at. So when I studied accounting, that was my basic approach. And when it came to taxation, I looked at the legislation, and then I also looked at when they are asking for maybe tax implications, what do they mean? And when I'm looking at past papers, I started to see, okay, they are doing it in the same way as accounting, basically, where you need the scope. You need to state what that section says and why it is applicable by applying the facts to the case. Because one of the mistakes that we usually make as candidates is that, yes, we can quote the standard, we can quote the legislation, but we fail to apply it. So you need to be able to spit back what the case study said. So when I was studying taxation and even in my answering, that's when I'll say, okay, this standard is applicable because of A, B, and C. These are the facts of the case, and this is how I'm going to treat it. And then in finance, how you study it is basically looking at the numbers. Yes, you have the numbers. However, you have to understand why certain things are included in the calculation. For example, you need to know why depreciation is not included in a capital budget question. You need to know why there's like a tax expense calculation that you need to do separately as a cash flow in capital budget, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't know what cycle is going to ask you. It's either they're going to say critically evaluate something that they already gave you, or they're going to say start from scratch, right? So you need to be prepared for either or. And finance also has like a strategic consideration side, right? Where you're going to look at your SWOT analysis, you're going to look at your SAFE method. If they're saying consider why we need to make this decision as a company, when you are responding, you can't respond as, a director. You need to respond to make a decision that is best for, yes, the management, but also the stakeholders, the company at large. How's it going to affect the customers? How's it going to affect the stakeholders? How's it going to affect our suppliers and the community at large? And with auditing, it is a whole process. So you need to take yourself back to CTA, basically, right? Where you're going to say, okay, an assertion is affected. What risks are affected, right? And obviously, to have a procedure, you can't just start procedures from scratch if you don't understand the root cause of the problem. You need to understand where the risk is coming from, which line item is affected, which assertion is affected. And after understanding that story, you're going to be able to respond using a procedure that is relevant, that is addressing that specific risk. Because you can't address something that you do not know the root cause of. So that is my study approach in terms of all the modules. So that is basically what I use to answer the questions on the day, and also structure my answers in the pre-release basically process. And yeah, the template that you can create is answering while writing your research for the 5 days in a manner that you are going to structure your answer in. I'm not saying cram or have a set answer. No, please do not do that. But structure it in a way that it makes sense. Structure it in like the email that you're going to respond to. I'm not sure if that answered your question to the person who asked it. Zalia, over to you.
Okay, so they reacted, they said yes. I'm not sure
Okay.
if there are any other questions before we can let Ntawi go.
I think there's a question
Yeah,
by Ketabashe. My issues with the
sure.
plans and study timetables that they are not budget friendly and time is not on our side. I'm exhausted like all the time. I feel like I sleep at midnight and wake up to go to work. I'm physically struggling, Jay. My mindset seems to be in the right place. I'm just exhausted, and some days can't really buckle down and focus or be productive in my allocated study time. So one of the things that you need to avoid is burnout, right? You need to understand that you are a human and you're not a robot, number one. So you need to make a structure that works for you, have a game plan that works for you. So what I did was I would work obviously from 8 until 4, get home. And when I got home, I spent at least 1 hour, 30 minutes resting. And I told myself that I cannot overwork myself because the following day is work. So during the week, I would attend whatever class I need to attend. And the days I don't have classes, I'll spend at least 2 hours or 2.5 hours working on board course material. Even if it's just 2 hours, 2 hours is more than enough in a day to work through board course material. It doesn't mean that if you work through 5 hours, you're going to pass. No, it's not about the quantity of hours you're going to work. It's about the quality of hours you're putting in, because now you can be effective in 2 hours, whereas you are ineffective and inefficient in 5 hours, right? So make sure that you have a set plan that, okay, a class is 2 hours, and when I don't attend a class, then for the 2 hours I was supposed to be in class, you make your body like practice how to be, working for those 2 hours, right? And during the weekend, that's when you're gonna capitalize on the day. You're gonna spend at least 8 hours um writing something, or catching up on schoolwork, or just catching up on something. Even if it's not 8 hours, you can do 6 hours. You can do hours from maybe 8. Don't wake up early. Wake up at 8, start working from 8:30, and then maybe you stop at 2 o'clock. But you need to rest, because during the week you are overly exhausted. You are expected to be a trainee. You're expected to work overtime. You're also expected to catch up on board course material, and you are only human. So one of the things you need to also remember is that you need to have a cheat day. Like, you see, when you're on a diet, you have a cheat day. For APC, you must also have a cheat day, where one day is a slow day. For me, it was Wednesday, because it was in between everything. Monday, Tuesday, I'm working hard. Wednesday is my slow day, where I'm going to maybe do an hour, or maybe do 2 hours, right? And then Thursday, Friday is when I am pushing hard again. So Wednesday, I chose Wednesday because it's the midpoint, and it's the chance where my body can just reset. But Sundays and Wednesdays, I did not work. So I hope I answered your question. Over to you, Zelia.
Okay. If they know other questions, I think we can call it a night. I'm not sure if someone is having one of those questions that is burning. Maybe you can just come in before we call it a night. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, I think we can leave it here. We can leave it here. So I'll just share Ntavi's YouTube channel. So for those that want to just go and peep, there are certain days when I'm there and I just don't leave, and I'm not even doing APC. But I think there are some insightful tips that you can take, whether you're doing APC, IAC, like she mentioned, it's an exam. And I think these challenges we do encounter. So it might not even be an exam. Maybe it's just your day-to-day life that you're struggling with. Some of these tips are applicable. So thank you so much, Ntavi, for coming through. We really do appreciate the time taken and the insights that have been shared with us. So Ntavi is going to be a regular face, so I'm sure you will see her very soon. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Zelia, and thank you so much for everyone who interacted. And I hope this was an insightful session. And if you still have more questions, you can just reach out to Zelia, and then I'll just try to, answer them as best as I can. And if you still have questions, then you can reach out to me on the YouTube channel. Then maybe I can make a video on what you still need further assistance on. But thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you enjoy your night.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ntavi. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.